Duel Links. Developed in 2017 as a torture mechanism for me specifically, until the release of Master Duel, Duel Links was Konami's most effective mechanism at separating young, nubile Yugists from the contents of their bank account. Now, if you've been watching my videos in the past, you know I have a different position on Duel Links than 99% of the Yu-Gi-Oh player base, insofar as I actually play and enjoy it. Duel Links has been so many different things to so many different people over the course of its 9-year lifespan, it's not surprising to see that it's followed almost exactly the same trajectory as Yu-Gi-Oh proper, beginning as a mechanism to satiate boomers and evolving to the point that it's completely unrecognizable to anyone but those who invested on day one. The end result, like the TCG, is a product that's extremely satisfying to those who still enjoy it, and a weird zoo-style fixture that people who decided they already hate Yu-Gi-Oh can point and laugh at. But this week, Duel Links did something kind of incredible, and I find it really surprising that for some reason I can't find coverage of it anywhere. Like, there's a page on Duel Links meta by Bradas, and then there's an announcement video by Bradas, but other than that I can find like a discussion video with something like 300 views from an account called Snowix, and then the actual factual announcement from Konami, which is sitting at a fatty 2.2k. For a reason I totally can't fathom, the devs of Duel Links have given boomers the simulator they always wanted, have given free-to-play players hundreds of dollars worth of staples, and have given competitive players a new PvP format with which to grind. And no one, knows it? So today I'm going to talk to you about the current state of Duel Links and then introduce you to its solution, character duels. So let's begin with the problems. So let's begin with an exploration of what Duel Links is. When Duel Links was first released in 2017, I think the devs at Konami just expected it was going to live for a few years max. Like, it was going to be something like the Legacy of the Duelist series, where it would have like a 2 or 3 year lifespan, they would sunset updates to it, and then release a new version a couple of months later. Or just forget about it entirely. In 2017, it wasn't exactly clear how long this whole iOS gacha game thing was going to last. But surprisingly, it took off in a really big way. For a number of years, from the release in 2017 until the release of Master Duel about 5 years later, Duel Links was the primary and exclusive way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Online officially. As a result of competitive players taking it seriously and competitive players developing a tournament infrastructure around the game, it stuck. And as it became clear it wasn't going away, Konami released more and more content, a GX world, a 5Ds world. It wouldn't have been surprising if it had a lifespan analogous to Speed Duel and stopped before synchros were introduced, but no, they made it to pendulums, and then links. You can play Rush Duel in this app, in regions where you can't purchase Rush Duel cards. At the very beginning of Duel Links, gameplay was, simpler. I hesitated there because what I wanted to call it was boring, but I don't think that's necessarily true. While early on decks like 3-Star Demo and Relinquished and Hammer Shark certainly took less actions than modern ones, there was kind of like a push-pull between individual decks. A metagame will evolve no matter what you're playing. But importantly, the type of gameplay from early Duel Links is the exact type of gameplay that Yu-Gi boomers lament the lack thereof. Instead of taking 5-minute combo turns, you were building decks around 1 or 2 synergies. In early Duel Links, the synergies could be as simple as there is a skill that allows you to put a 200 attack point buff on your side of the field, and here are the good cards in that attribute. But even as new sets released, things like Fire King Nephthys were really interesting to play around with. These days, Duel Links still perseveres as a money printer, making Konami a bunch of cash, but I'm pretty sure its original purpose was to guide these boomers back into the vocabulary of Yu-Gi-Oh! In case you're unfamiliar, Duel Links follows the Speed Duel format rules, and Speed Duel was explicitly developed as a mechanism to help people dip their toes into modern Yu-Gi-Oh! They'd start by playing decks that have vanillas and simplified effects and fewer zones and fewer phases, and then as they became comfortable with it, they'd want to start playing the real deal, the TCG. I think this was the plan for Duel Links 2, but it sort of outlived that purpose. As they started releasing more and more powerful cards, Duel Links functionally caught up with the TCG, and for the past few years, the most powerful cards in the app are some of the same ones that are powerful in the card game proper. At time of recording, some of the best decks in the format are Trap Tricks, which is just Sarah and a bunch of back row, getting to play something like 9 hand traps, Nibiru's, Veilers, Mourners. Tachyon, a deck that flexes the ultra-powerful Schwarzschild Infinity Dragon, a card that we got like under a year ago. And Punk, which is just Punk. It's got all the same cards as Punk. Pep is in this game. So clearly, Duel Links has evolved beyond a gateway drug to get you into Paper Yu-Gi-Oh! And has sort of become its own Paper Yu-Gi-Oh! Just like Modern, from the second you download it, you are immediately inundated with way too much information. Even at low ranks, you are expected to do bullshit-ass combos for a long time before passing to your opponent. And often, games end on, yes, the first or second turn. This has largely totally alienated the player base Konami sought to capture with the original release of the software. Duel Links now is just a whole bunch of almost TCG decks that, by virtue of skills, have this auto-balancing factor where your decks can functionally never brick and get way more powerful if you are going second to compensate for the innate going first bias in card design. I personally think that gameplay is really good and have enjoyed both Speed and Rush Ladder for months upon months. But how many times have you logged on to see Yugi Boomers talk about how even Duel Links isn't what it used to be? That skills play the game for you, that the decks are too complicated, they're too combo heavy, that games are over the first or second turn, that you have to have all these incredibly expensive staples in order to even compete. And to that end, they are kind of right, despite the fact that I drastically prefer the gameplay of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And modern Duel Links to that of summon Hammer Shark and try and cheat out a lost blue breaker. I can't deny that skill creep and imports of the newest cards have left these boomers with no place to go, which is why Konami implemented this. About 4 days ago, Duel Links added a new ladder to its ladder system. Already it's got two, the Speed Duel 1 and the Rush Duel 1, because obviously you can't play Rush Duels in Speed Duel. This format was advertised as a permanent pre-built deck game mode, and I'm using the word advertised there very loosely. It's not really adequately explained in-app. There's a couple of cinematics that sort of mention it, and at present there's a thing you can click on the main screen that takes you there, but it's not super clear. Like, you gotta go to PvP and sort of scroll down to it. It's really tucked away for something this incredible. Anyway, this new format is called Character Deck Duels, and it does something that I've wanted Yu-Gi-Oh! To experiment with for a long time: introduces sealed play. The one time Yu-Gi-Oh! Has tried something like this before is in the Speed Duel Battle City box and the subsequent boxes for Speed Duel that were released, in which each character had like a 10-20 card deck that you could theoretically play. But there has been a lot more thought put into this one. So as part of a lifetime mission, here just having the character unlocked, you get not only access to that character in Speed, but also access to that character's specific deck in Character Duels. And when I say access to that character's deck, I mean the pre-con they have built and all the cards inside. Even if you don't intend on playing this format, this is a huge boon for new players. These decks all contain like Regeki Breaks and Mystical Space Typhoons and Book of Moons and Forbidden Lance and Forbidden Chalice and Cosmic, like hundreds of dollars worth of playable meta staples that previously you had to go fish in UR boxes for. At present, the decks that are available are exactly the ones you would expect if you wanted to lure Yugi Boomers back into the game by putting a box on top of a stick and dangling a little Blue Eyes White Dragon underneath. There's Dark Magician, a build that just elects to do the Dark Magic Circle loop with Magician's Navigation over and over again. There's Blue Eyes, a surprisingly comprehensive deck that can make Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon and has some pretty powerful removal. There's a Red Eyes deck which makes use of the fact that Red Eyes Slash Dragon is all but impossible to remove in a format like this. There's a Neos deck that functionally enables you to make Brave Neos over and over again, while also adding every Neospatian to your graveyard by virtue of a skill to enable a miracle for Divine Neos. There's a Cyber Dragon deck which aims to set Cyber Overflow on the play and just make Rampage to kill you on the draw. A Junk Warrior into Stardust deck for Yusei. A Resonator into Red Dragon Archfiend deck for Jack Atlas. An Onomot deck that just spams rank 4s for Yuma. And a Water deck that just spams Sharks for Shark. I'm usually pretty down on the way Konami handles precons, but all of these decks are really good. Like, it is clear a lot of thought went into building these and balancing them around each other. I think pretty much any one of these decks can beat any other one of these decks. Anyway, so after getting all of these free cards, you can enter a PvP mode where you play against other players. For beating or for losing to those players, you don't get a rating that increases. Instead, you get something called a Respect Orb, for which you can get something like 30 a day. These orbs can be cashed in the Respect Orb shop, and there's a bunch of really interesting stuff in there as well. There's cosmetics and currencies. You can get gems or coins or box chips or whatever. But there's also grades. For each character you've unlocked, you can spend an increasing number of Respect Orbs up to grade 5 to increase the strength of your deck. Now, that doesn't make your deck more powerful or more capable. It permits you per each grade to change one card in it. This is a really awesome way to reward dedication to a single deck while also not impacting the power level that much. The cards you can swap out are just the cards that are unlocked as a result of the character duels. So there's really not too much you can do with it. For instance, in my Yuma deck, I swapped out MSTs for Forbidden Lances because I thought they had a little more coverage, and I threw in Sphere Karibos over some consistency cards because I thought the deck was consistent enough and I wanted more play going first. But it's not a situation where if you are a grade 0 deck, you are always losing to a grade 5 deck. It's really a matter of inches. This is a really, really awesome way to introduce the type of players that enjoy these anime battles to the joy of deck building, of improving from a sealed pool of cards, a deck that's already pretty powerful. And in some cases, there's not really a more valuable option to include in your deck than what you already have. In the rank 4 deck, for instance, there's not much you can do with the extra deck, given that all of the rank 4s you would want to play are already in there. Like, you can put in a Gaia, but the way that the format has shaken out, you don't ever really need piercing. It's really strange just how many boxes this checks for duelists who have been whining. The skills are massively simplified. Rather than a paragraph and a half with 16 different stipulations that makes it so you never brick and never feel out of the game going second, Kaiba's, for instance, adds a poly from outside your deck to your hand. The gameplay is focused around the monsters that even casual players know and love. Dark Magician, the Blue Eyes White Dragon, the Red Eyes Black Dragon, Neos, Cyber Dragon, Stardust, RDA, Utopia, Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark. Not many people watched Zexal. And the cards that are legal are mostly quite simple. Removal is MST, Raigeki Break, Offerings to the Doomed. Negation is Fiendish Chain, Force Focus, and though I can't guarantee this won't change in the future, there's no fucking pendulums or links, which makes a big difference for a lot of these people. Finally, it's totally free. Not only do you have to invest thousands of dollars to catch up with players who have been playing forever, collecting these decks puts you more on equal footing with those players in speed because they contain so many staples, you can just port them into your decks for the main format. I'm really baffled at the existence of this thing. The gameplay's pretty good too. There are some complaints I have. Going first is way less good than going second, except for exactly the Blue Eyes deck, which means that a significant amount of decks kind of have to open a card like Hallowed Life Barrier or feel like they're totally behind if they win the coin flip. But with the inclusion of cards like Sphere Karibo, you can kind of compensate for that in deck building if you're grinding your strategy. If you've ever wanted to get into Duel Links but feel like the format eclipsed you, the cards became too complicated, the skills became too all-encompassing, or the money just wasn't there, I really recommend you hop in and try out character duels. They are a fucking blast. Oh, and if you want my opinion about what deck should I play to win the most games, don't sweat it. I think all these decks are competitive. I guess I'd say the top ones are probably the Yuma Onomat deck, the Kaiba Blue Eyes deck, and the Jack Atlas deck I also find pretty powerful. But yeah, I feel like I'm going crazy. It's a generous enough offer that there are people speculating in Reddit threads if end of service is coming. They're like, Konami would never give us this much shit for free unless they were about to rug pull. But if you look at the numbers, Duel Links still has a shitload of players and makes $1 quadrillion. I take advantage of it. It's a genuinely really good sell. It's not even a sell, it's free. It's fucking free. I've been playing it on stream this week and having an absolute blast. The bonus episode for March is going to be character deck duels, and that'll come out probably today or tomorrow. But I have never ever seen such a perfect response to so many things being asked for by so many disparate people within the Yu-Gi-Oh community ever. Check it out. Okay, that's it. That's it. Bye-bye. That's all I wanted to talk about today. Goodbye.